What is the feeling when a thumbtack pierces the skin? Like, are you able to block it out while you're in the ring? Does the adrenaline take over? Do you just feel like, oh my god, once you get back to the locker room? Like, tell me the thumbtack experience.
Well, for me, it's a different experience than most people because my pain tolerance is very high, and a lot of people will notice that I can take a beating and continue to go. So for me, I will say this: the thumbtack. It depends where the thumbtack penetrates.
Hey guys, welcome back to another interview here on Toned In Entertainment. Today, joining me here on the podcast is the horror from Hobb, Spectre. How you doing, Spectre?
I couldn't be better. Been a violent week. I love it.
I was gonna say I saw a couple of clips on your Instagram, and I was like, "Oh my god! Like, are you going to make it to the podcast on Monday from the weekend?"
Oh,
But
of course
here.
I will. I mean, I do have to lick my wounds. Keelan Cole did end up on top, but he put on a good fight there. I gotta give my hats off to him because he's not a hardcore wrestler, but he brought it there and he took me down, and I'm willing to admit it.
Now, I love the fact that even for the podcast, you're still got the face paint on, or do you just wear the face paint on 24/7?
Now, let me correct you with that. People always seem to think that this is face paint. It is not. It is a side effect from where I come from, which is Hobbs End. It's basically a town up in the Northeast that is one of those lost towns. And when I grew up there, what I witnessed was that the town would turn people into monsters. And so there's some sort of evil force that kind of infected me while growing up there. And what you're seeing is my soul leaking out of my eyes because your eyes are the windows of the soul. So what happens is as the violence builds up, it starts to come out my eyes. And then while I'm beating people up in the ring and satisfying that violence, it'll start to disappear. And you can kind of see that.
So you're not like the Road Warriors or the Ultimate Warrior or Darby Allin or any of these guys that have to like
No,
get made up.
this is not by choice. This is by birth in the wrong town.
So can you tell me, I like to travel, I love to do touristy things. If I was to go out to Hobbs End, what are some fun things that, us tourists would just have a hoot doing out there?
Well, there's a reason I don't tell people exactly where Hobbs End is because I do not want anyone to go there. I make an occasional visit back there, but it is usually to contain the evil within that town so that it does not spread to the rest of North America and even the world. So a lot of times I'll go over there and I'll settle that evil, and then it'll be good for a while, but I always have to go back, and it's never a fun time. So don't you dare go looking for Hobbs End. Don't you dare, because you will regret it.
So you're saying Hobbs End is more off the list than like Area 51?
Of course it is. Of course it is. And that's why, again, I'm not telling anyone where it is, but that there's good reason for that.
Well, I do want to thank you for all your hard work and dedication for, keeping us safe. I mean, we don't even know about the challenges or the evils that are out there because you've got them all under control for us.
Exactly. Well, I won't say I have all of them, but I do have the Hobbs End under control. And I appreciate that because a lot of people don't really understand the work that I put in to save their lives. Because this is a very dark evil. I mean, you see my eyes. It's infected me. And I have to expel that violence. And wrestling is a great way to do that.
Now, speaking of violence, it seems like you're just having like you're a kid in the candy store whenever you're in the wrestling ring, that you're just like an 8-year-old who's having the best birthday party ever in the ring when you're just either bashing somebody with a chair or maybe the tide is turned and you're having a chair bashed over your head as well.
Yeah, well, violence. I mean, it's human nature to enjoy violence. I mean, why else do you think people go to the movies Why do you think we started politics? Why do you think we started, anything that can bring up war? I mean, so the biggest thing is I want to please not just my own violence, but the violence of the audience. And sometimes in order to please that violence, you yourself have to take the violence as well. And again, well, with my match on Keelan last Thursday, he proved that he understood that. I beat the crap out of him, and then he came back and beat the crap out of me.
Now, do you ever feel, I've never stepped foot inside the squared circle, but do you ever feel maybe that some people just don't want to get into the ring with you?
Oh yes, and I mean I've seen it a couple times. We did have a time where at WWA 4 we did I had a contract. Well, I had a match with Liam Gray scheduled, and what happened was Liam, I guess he claims that he was out of town, so he had Travis 3000 sign a contract to pretend to be him. But what Travis didn't know is we had agreed to a hardcore match, and so once Travis found that out, he was gone.
You said
So I've seen it myself where someone will step in the ring and then just leave.
now you said that they agreed to a hardcore match. Do you wrestle anything but hardcore matches?
Oh, I'll wrestle any kind of match. I've
Okay.
done. I mean, well, when I first got here, my trainer AR Fox taught me the basics of wrestling match, and I honestly do enjoy just regular matches as well. But hardcore is my specialty. It's where I can become the most creative. When there's no rules stopping me, my mind just gets creative. And I mean, I've done deathmatch before as well. However, deathmatch gets so deep into the hardcore that I like the creativity of mixing wrestling with the weapons. And so hardcore is that sweet zone for me. So I will do death matches on occasion if the time calls for it, or if the opponent calls for it. I'm not going to back down. But hardcore is my sweet spot. The ECW style. You got the barbed wire. The I love thumbtacks. Honestly, thumbtacks are one of my favorite items.
Okay, so let's talk about thumbtacks. Again, as somebody who's never stepped foot inside the square circle like myself, what is the feeling when a thumbtack pierces the skin? Like are you able to block it out while you're in the ring? Does the adrenaline take over? Do you just feel like, oh my God, once you get back to the locker room? Like, tell me the thumbtack experience.
Well, for me, it's a different experience than most people because my pain tolerance is very high, and a lot of people will notice that I can take a beating and continue to go. So for me, I will say this: the thumbtack. It depends where the thumbtack penetrates. That's one big thing. There's a lot more sensitive spots in your body than that are there's parts of your body that are more sensitive to others when they're pierced by thumbtacks. So one suggestion I tell people is when there's tacks in the ring, if you don't want to feel them, if you don't want to feel the pain as badly as possible, you don't want to put your hands down in them. You want to crawl like this, because when it gets into those hands, that's where it's pretty painful. And surprisingly, your butt is very painful as well.
Really?
Like your butt cheeks, yes.
Even with people with lots of cushion back there, like,
yeah, I mean, I'm going to say I have some pretty good cushion back there, and I gave Renegade a Hobbs end into thumbtacks and drove his head into the thumbtacks, but my butt had to go into thumbtacks as well. And I will say that was a big surprise that was a lot more painful than my previous thumbtack bumps.
Okay, now the most extreme thing I've probably ever done in my life is like a Tough Mudder or something like that, where you walk through and you get zapped, at the end and whatever, it's a little painful, this and that. But like as you do them, you kind of get used to it, right? Do you
That's
ever
true.
go into these matches and like, oh, well, I've gotten hit by a kendo stick before. I know what it feels like. So I don't know. Are you mentally prepared for that kind of thing now?
Well, I'll say this, and we'll go back to thumbtacks for this because because Thumbtacks, the first time I did take Thumbtacks, I was absolutely scared about them. I will fully admit that. You know, I did not know what it was going to be like. I actually was inspired to do Thumbtacks from me and my sister growing up. We watched WWF growing up, and it was the Attitude Era, and my mind was absolutely blown during the Undertaker Mankind Hell in a Cell match. And when he poured out those thumbtacks, I had never seen anything like that before, and my mind was blown. And so that's one thing that I wanted to, you know, I don't know. It's not that I wanted to do it, but as I became a wrestler and became more of a hardcore style, I wanted to give people that feeling of shock, you know, seeing the thumbtacks for the first time. So a lot of times, if you pay attention to my matches, whenever I introduce thumbtacks, I don't bring them out in a sack, you know, like most people do, because you know you bring out the sack and people will automatically be like, oh yeah, it's thumbtacks. So I get creative with it. You know, one time I dumped him out of a toolbox. One time I dumped him out of a popcorn bag, and then a beer mug. You know, the thing is, like, I'll bring it out and I'll you know, tease something else, and then when you dump the thumbtacks and they see it's thumbtacks, then they get that shock. And that's what like I said, I want people to feel that shock that I felt when I saw them for the first time. But again, back to the first time of taking them, the interesting thing was that, and I'll say this is probably true with almost every weapon or even some moves, is that the anticipation of taking it is a lot worse than actually taking it. So the buildup of like me, you know, knowing that it's going to happen, really, you know, started getting me freaked out. And then the minute it happened, I think Jericho touched on this too. The minute it happened, you're just like, oh, okay. And then after that, it's like, okay, I know what it is. I know what it is. You might get a little cocky at some of those points too, though, and overdo it. For example, when I fought Teriyaki for a Halloween Hell match, I fell into thumbtacks and continued the match, and then I later in the match gave him a DDT with the thumbtacks in my back. That was extremely painful. So sometimes, you know, you experience something and you're like, oh, okay, well, I can take it, and then your mind goes, okay, I can take it and this, but then you don't realize, oh, that's a lot different, if you know what I mean.
You know, yeah, I do. And with so much wrestling on TV and now like AEW, you see a lot of the thumbtacks now. I think almost in every steel cage match, right? It's almost become like a
Pretty much.
commonplace
I mean,
thing,
I love
right?
it.
Right. Oh,
Yeah.
you do love it, because I think as a fan sometimes maybe we start to get desensitized to these things where it used to be like this huge shock thing, like, oh my God, they're gonna put thumbtacks down, because we see the ladies doing it now with Britt Baker. I saw, and Thunder Rosa have done it. I think they just did it in
Yeah.
Blood and
Yeah. A
Guts a
lot of
couple
props
weeks
to
ago.
them.
So do you think you have a challenge? Have you seen a challenge with trying to do thumbtacks and extreme things to maybe like have the fans still shocked, or are they just still shocked every time you do something crazy?
They're pretty shocked, but again, like I said, I try to think outside the box with it, you know, and I try to, you know, I try to I look at a weapon, you know, I see a chair, it's like, okay, you could hit him in the head, you could hit him in the spine with it or something like that, but you know, I look at the chair and I think of how else could you use it, you know, maybe you use the points of it, you know, maybe you use the folding aspect of it and everything like that. And I do that with almost every weapon. I also do, so I've been wrestling for about 2.5 years now, but prior to that, I was a stuntman out in Arizona, for a live action Wild West show. It's called the um, oh man, sorry, the name changed. Pistolero's Wild West Show. That's what it's called. So it used to be called something else, and I was just trying to make sure I named it right. Big props to them for because when I came into wrestling, I had already had so much experience with like live fighting, with entertaining crowds, improv, everything like that. And my bosses out there were so creative on how to do all these cool stunts and how to fool the audience and how to do all that, that it kind of rubbed off on me. And so whenever I approach even just a regular match, I'll try my best to see what I can do to swerve the audience or give them something they haven't seen before.
I was going to say, speaking of something people have never seen before, I've seen you have quite some fun with Nerf guns also in the ring. So when you bring out a Nerf gun, nobody thinks that's going to be dangerous, but you found a way to make it extremely painful.
Well, I'll correct you there. That was Cav.
Okay.
Cameron was the one who brought him out, but I was the one who was all in on doing it because
Okay.
I got to give him a shout out on that. Me and him have had maybe 4 or 5 great hardcore matches. If you can find them, they're always awesome and creative. And yeah, he's the one who brought that in there, and I was all about it. So I was down to do it. And I think he's been doing it a couple more times out in the Midwest now. So yeah, shout out Cav for those Nerf thumbtacks
I was going to
that
say,
he created.
you're not the originator, but you're a happy participant of.
Yeah,
The...
I mean, I'm the first one to take it, or well, I'm the first one to be involved in it, I guess. I would, as in sort of like I was his experiment, but that is all Cavs. That was all Cavs' idea, and when he brought it out, I was all about it.
Now, you mentioned earlier, and we talked about this week, that you trained with AR Fox. So tell me a little bit about, training with AR Fox, who's on AEW. And what we were talking about is like, I was like, oh my God, he had an awesome match the night before. And you're like, I don't remember him never having a banger of a match. So obviously you're training with
Yeah,
somebody who's super skilled in the ring. Just tell me
yeah.
a little bit about the experience of, training from him and maybe some of the key things that you've learned from him over the years that you've been training with him.
Yeah, and I'm definitely gonna get a little more shoot ski here with this, but so prior to wrestling, I ended up just kind of coming across, or I came across wrestling as the fact that I missed doing the stunt work. So the thing is, I grew up watching wrestling as with my sister in the Attitude Era till I was about, I don't know, maybe 10 or 11, and then I started focusing on basketball. And then me and my sister would practice wrestling moves on my little brother because he was a lot younger than us. But we basically for about 20 years of my life, I didn't care at all about wrestling. I have so the thing is, I go around and I see a lot of I meet a lot of wrestlers that, and almost all of them are marks. All of them have they know all the big matches, everything like that. I didn't. So when I came into WWA 4 and I met AR Fox, I had no idea who he was. A friend suggested it, and I was kind of looking more for the fact of basically a place to unleash that violence, I guess. But yeah, I guess when I came in and started learning from Fox, one thing I noticed is that, because I've gone through a lot of coaches and trainers in different aspects, was just how amazing of one he was, in the sense of he has confidence in each and every one of us, that even if we don't, he has confidence that we can do it. And not to bash any other trainer out there or anything like that, but had I gone to, let's say, for example, Nightmare Factory with Cody, and I've met Cody, he's a great guy and think he's a fantastic trainer. But had I gone to any other trainer, from what I'm hearing, I probably would have been like, okay, this is cool, but I'm going to move on. Fox recognized that I had skills from the stunt work and did not hold me back. And he saw where I was kind of at, and was like, all right, we're going to get you even better. So, and the environment that he creates is so fun in training. It feels less like, a mental and physical beatdown, and more like just us coming around and goofing off, and he creates that awesome environment that makes you just want to come hang out. Right now we're at WWA 4. This is pretty much, my home. I try to come here as often as possible, whether I'm training, whether I'm not. We have training going on right now, but but it's just become such a big home. And the other thing I noticed about Fox is just how absolutely humble he is, and how he, to me, in my mind, obviously I didn't care about wrestling for a long time, and I didn't even watch any of Fox's matches till about 2 or 3 months after I graduated. And once I did, I realized like how great of a wrestler he was. And in my eyes, he's currently the best when you're talking about a single match situation where you need someone, where you need a banger of a match. There's no one better than him right now. And yeah, and for someone to be that good, but at the same time not really like act like he's that good, and be very nice and humble with people, it honestly changed me personally a lot too. I was going through a big struggle at that time, and just again, self-confidence issues and everything like that. And getting to learn besides someone who's that humble kind of made me want to be a better person. And again, yeah, again, shoot ski on this, but it's just I really can't talk about Fox without just giving so much credit to him, as a trainer and as a person. He's just done so much for me, and these past 2.5 years of wrestling have just it's almost like it's extremely surreal. I just can't believe like the difference in my life as I started wrestling. So I really appreciate Fox for that, and we have a really good family here at WWA for that he's built up as well.
Now you said you watched wrestling with your sister during the Attitude Era. Me and you have a lot of similarities, I think, in the fact that like I watched wrestling hardcore during the WCW, Monday Night Wars, the ECW time, and then I stopped like cold turkey for about 10, 12 years or so.
Oh, I
And
didn't. Yeah, wow.
yeah, I completely stopped because it just wasn't for me anymore. I thought it was dedicated towards kids for the most part.
Yeah.
It wasn't interesting, I was going through a time in my life where I had other stuff going on. I just didn't care anymore. And indie wrestling is what brought me back into watching wrestling again full time, and hence starting up the channel. My love for wrestling since I was always, and then it reigniting my passion, my love for it. And it's my little way. Even I'll never step foot inside of a ring, but it's my little way of giving back to something that I love so much, and hoping that like talking to guys like you and other girls and guys out there, that I can give you guys a little bit of a voice out there, and maybe somebody that doesn't know who you are, so people can see and recognize, your talents and stuff like that, and learn a
Yes,
little bit about you.
and spread the violence.
Right.
Yes.
That's what we're all about,
That's cool though. I mean, so you understand that like one thing that I'll say that my mind is different than almost all wrestlers out there is I know what the real world is like, and the wrestling world is just this awesome separate world from that. When you're there's so many like struggles in the real world and all these other things, but when you come into wrestling, it's just this world where you kind of forget about all that, and you kind of have a lot of fun, whether you're a fan, a ref, a manager, a wrestler. And it's also a world where, like the real world, there's so many people out there trying to step on you and screw you over. But in the wrestling world, I want to say like it's about solid like 90 to 95% of wrestlers I've met are very awesome, interesting people. And it's insane. Like almost across, you have your couple people who have their egos and their whatever's their chips on their shoulder or whatever. But seriously, like every person that I come across that's a wrestler is just such a great person, and such an interesting person too.
I think you kind of have to be like, I think that kind of goes hand in hand with like
Yeah.
professional wrestling. You got to have something interesting to you, or you really don't stand out with all you guys
Yeah,
and girls out there.
exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
Now let's talk a little bit about, you know, exercising and staying in shape, and, what are some of the key things that, keep you going and able to bash people over the head from week to week?
Well, one thing that I had the advantage of is that my body was already built for wrestling through the stunt show. So at the Pistolero stunt show, we took bumps on dirt and sometimes asphalt. So my body, and the thing was back then, that's when I learned that okay, at first it's gonna suck, but you just kind of got to keep doing it from time to time. I mean, if you get banged up a little too much, you can rest and do it, but you gotta get your body used to the idea that it's gonna get beaten up. So so I came in with my body already knowing that. So when I started doing the bumps and everything like that, honestly, the rings that everyone assumes rings are made out of springboards or padding and whatever, but it's like no, it's just wood and maybe thin layer padding. But for me, the ring is actually a lot nicer than what we used to bump in on the stunt show. So for me, I'm like, okay, I'll take bumps all day and do all that because I already know how to properly bump and everything like that. But nonetheless, if I did have a hamstring injury not too long ago that kept me out a month. Whenever you come back, you that first bump always sucks, and then you just got to remind yourself, well, you got to get back to it, hit it hard, hit the mats, do everything you can. And then as far as wrestling goes, like training wise, Fox has a great training regimen. I mean, that dude works out more than any dude I've ever seen. He always is at the fore working out. So if you ever want to work out, he's here. So you can come in and join his workouts, ask him any questions about workouts, do your own workouts. And then, yeah. And honestly, personally, one thing I'm trying to do more is just, anytime I show up, make sure I get a good round of chaining in to the point where I can't breathe anymore. Because one thing I've learned is you can be in great shape, but you're still going to get blown in the wrestling match no matter what. There's nothing really you can do about that. So you either got to figure out a way to space out certain things, or you're just going to get blown and accept it.
Have you ever found yourself in a situation where maybe your opponent wasn't up to par with their conditioning and maybe you had to, it just it didn't go as smoothly as you had hoped?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. You definitely come across that, especially now. I mean, I'm kind of uh, from my previous stunt experience, I do help people learn how to do moves safely and stuff like that. So a lot of times I'll run matches with some of the newer guys, and a lot of them, they get blown very fast, and a lot of it more has to do with their excitement and the fact that when you first start wrestling, you don't realize you don't have to go so fast. You can take your time a little bit more. But yeah, usually it's more or less people going too fast, and I've gotten to the point where I realized, give them something good and to get them to slow down a little bit, and then hopefully they can catch the pacings. But at the same time, I've also been on the other end. I I I do like to keep in shape, but I'm not Fox. I'm not old, nor am I anyone who just loves to run and go crazy. So I've been on the other end where someone's going ham, I'm barely able to keep up. I've even had a match at the four where it was me. Who was it? It was me and Rico versus VDA, and I had handed Rico a chair because me, I gotta get a chair. And at that point, we had been going, and I handed him a chair, and I had to go outside and go under the ring so that I could puke. So yeah, that happened here, and not my proudest moment. But I mean, I did finish the match, but I just didn't want to. I didn't want people to see me puking, so I just did it under the ring.
Okay, you kept it classy at least.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, like I said, like there's just sometimes you just can't prepare for it. Like, plus I don't know, I've can't really think of a wrestling match where everything went according to plan. And so when stuff goes wrong, then that can change a lot of stuff too. And therefore you all of a sudden you're more blown than you expected.
Now you do have a high threshold for pain. Was there a particular time or situation or an event in your life where you realized, hey, I can take a lot more pain than Joe Schmo over here?
Yeah, there was I will say it was before the stunt show. It was when I played semi-pro rugby for the Tucson Magpies. And so rugby definitely made me realize that yeah, I can take a beating and keep going. And it was awesome. I mean, I loved playing rugby, and I kind of miss it from time to time. But yeah, that was the first experience because I played soccer in high school. I played a lot of different sports in high school, and I played soccer as one of them. But once I played rugby, I hated soccer because I realized all the people who flop, like, why? Why? Like in rugby, I ended up fracturing a rib in a match, but kept playing. I ended up dislocating both thumbs and kept playing. And that was just part of that culture. And then from that point on, I always was like, why, why would getting hurt stop me from performing? And that's definitely, I would say, yeah, definitely rugby is just, that is the root of that whole, I can take pain and keep going stuff.
Now I was going through your Instagram videos, and I do want to give you like a shout out for like I like when people go a little bit above and beyond with their videos. Like they just don't throw up their matches, but you put like effects into it, you put some music into it, you put some movie clips into it. You had Korn playing, you had Wu
Yeah,
Tang. Like I'm like me and you like are listening to the exact same music. I can feel it. Like I was like, oh,
yeah,
I'm digging it. Like so like
yeah,
just tell me how much fun that you have. Like you have to have fun to spend the time because it does take time. It does take effort to put stuff like that
yeah.
together versus just throw up a match by itself.
Yeah. And again, I got into the stunt work back in the day because of my interest in film. I've actually been a screenwriter I started just doing it as a hobby since I was 20. And my initial move to Atlanta was for film. And what I'll say though is I did get out here and I did get into some stunt work. However, I did technically get blacklisted for being a little too violent with the actors, but they wanted real violence. That's all I got to say. So I mean, I'm a very I want the crowd to feel the violence, but the director says no. We need Ryan Reynolds for other things. It's like it is what it is. But nonetheless, I am a very big film guy. In case you don't notice, I'm a very big horror film guy, and so what I see when I'm posting my Instagrams, and honestly when I'm doing my matches too, is just an opportunity to practice my filmmaking styles and my storytelling and everything like that, and just have fun with it. Because honestly, like I said, I come from a much different background than most wrestlers. Like I'm more interested was more interested in film and all that kind of stuff. So instead of kind of falling into what every other wrestler does, I'm trying to do some things that are very different and experimenting with that.
I think that's kind of some BS. Like people say, hey, listen, we want realism. We want it to be real, but not
Yeah.
too real because,
Yeah. Yeah. There's so much. And that's one thing. Another thing that I'll say about AR Fox that's great is he's not someone who will say, no, you shouldn't. Well, first off, I'll say he teaches psychology mostly. A lot of people believe that we come out here and he's teaching us how to do 450s and jumping off the top ropes. No, he teaches us the basics and the psychology. But if we want to learn something, he doesn't say no. He helps us learn it. And he also is very supportive of us finding our own sort of way, like as far as character goes, as far as style goes, and everything like that. Well, I've seen from other people, like, certain trainers will push out more old school style wrestlers or more TV style wrestlers. Like Fox will do whatever or will support whatever you want to do. and help you out in the best way he can. And I'm again another reason why I think if I were anywhere else, if I had stuck with it, I probably wouldn't even be this character, just because Fox was so supportive of it, and yeah, so I'm again grateful for that.
Now I am going to ask you, but you don't have to answer the question if you can't answer the question. But can you say that the project that you got blacklisted from that you were working on?
Not without getting sued.
Then we're not going to do it. Then, my friend, we are
We
not
will
going to
not
do
get
it.
into it.
We will
But
not get into it.
I will say that you haven't seen the last of Spectre on the big screen. That's all I'm going to say.
Can you say what to look forward to, or are we just going to keep our eyes peeled?
I'm just saying. No, I'm just saying that my goals might be involved with that. That there may or may not be some other things that, the good thing is that people tend to forget.
Mm.
You know,
It is Hollywood.
but
People forget very easily.
yes, it is Hollywood, and people. Yeah, there's people who've done worse out there. We'll say that.
Right. No, for sure. So is there
Yeah.
anything else that we should be on the lookout then? We can't name the secret projects that you're working on.
Well, and the other thing I do want to mention is that I would like to get into a little bit more of my film and TV stuff that I have been doing. However, I do stand with the SAG-AFTRA and writers, and right now, due to the strike, we're not promoting anything, and I very strongly support that. That's if people don't know, there's a big strike going on, and no movies are getting made right now simply because the higher ups, the CEOs, producers, are not willing to give the people that are down low, busting their butt, a almost livable wage, pretty much, especially with this economy. I mean, I'm currently working on it. I'm currently been on a TV show that it was a fantastic experience, and I got to meet a lot of great people at the PA level and at the grip level and all that kind of stuff, and see what the amount of work that they have to put in and the amount of sacrifices they have to make for their families and all that just to entertain people. And I really feel like asking to give them some more money and some more support is not a lot, especially because of the difference in pay from up top to the bottom. So I am fully in support of this strike, and I really hope we get a good resolution out of it.
Yeah, most definitely. Yeah, definitely. I mean, I know these writer strikes happen like every 10 years or something like that. They come on, and I think the last
Yeah,
one happened. I remember when 24 was on the air and they got shut down for a season, and
yeah,
but they're killing it out there. They're killing
yeah.
it in profits.
Yeah,
And
it's just mostly evolving with the times. I mean, this time it involves how big streaming has gotten. No one could have predicted that streaming was going to be the main way we watch shows. So the thing is, there's a lot of different loopholes that involve if you're filming for streaming that these companies can take advantage of, and so it's just a system that needs to get reworked, and so that's what the strike's trying to do.
yeah, no, hopefully it gets resolved and we get some good programming back again. The great thing is it doesn't affect pro
Yeah.
wrestling. So what are some of the
Nope.
cool things that you have coming up as far as shows coming in the future here?
Well, I always try to be at the WWA 4. I don't, due to my age, I don't wrestle as often as some of the other A4 guys. But I'm always at the 4 for every Thursday. I'll either be on commentary or I'll be wrestling. It's just my favorite place to do anything. We do have a collab. We do have a crossover WWA 4 versus DWA, Dynamic Wrestling Association, where we're going to have our guys versus their guys at Believe Music Hall in Atlanta. That'll be September 7th.
That
and
was
that
in
should be
Atlanta, you
a cool,
said?
pretty cool.
Atlanta?
Yes, Atlanta, Believe Music Hall in Atlanta, and that'll be a pretty cool crossover. I am going to be taking on Chip Skyler for their Ultraviolent title, and that means that we will probably be bleeding during that. So that'll be an exciting time. And what else? We got, yeah. I mean, I'm coming up on a nice little well, I'd like to call it a vacation from wrestling, but it's going back to Hobbs End for about 10 days. So it's not exactly what I would call vacation. It's more or less, killing off some monsters. Simple as that.
Doing good
But
for
that
us
can often
common
be
folks out
very
there.
exactly. And but that can often be very I don't know, very relaxing in a way. Maybe not to the normal person, but definitely to me.
To you, we all have our things, right?
So yeah, that's pretty much it right now. What was that?
We all have our things. We all have our own stress
But
relievers, right?
oh yeah.
You know,
I mean, some people read books, other people use those books to bash people's heads in,
plain
So
and simple. Now you said
yeah.
there might be blood. When I was looking for a picture to put on the guest announcement thing, it was really hard for me to find a picture of you not with blood on your face.
Yeah, lately there's been a lot of blood. I'll say that. But you know me, I love horror movies. I love blood. I love guts, and so the fact that I'm the forefront of that blood, I love it.
Well, definitely keep up the violence, my friend. We'll be staying tuned to. It's always fun to watch other people get bashed over the head with a chair, and you provide the entertainment for all of us.
Always, yes. Gotta please that that deep inner human craving for violence. You gotta everyone has it. And the screaming crowds prove it anytime I'm out there bashing someone's head in.
Yeah, you're a much tougher guy than I am. I sit on my couch and I play Street Fighter, and my wife says, "Oh, you get so angry and you get so into it." I'm like, "Yeah, that's
Well,
about
Street
as
Fighter's pretty violent. I'll say that.
right,
I mean, there's not a lot of blood, but
right."
it is still a beatdown. Like I said, you look at anyone, there's something about them that screams, "I like violence." There you
Right.
go.
You do. You do. There is just a little. Well, is there anything else that we should touch on that I haven't asked?
Uh, I don't think so. I think no. I mean, well, no. That's pretty much all I can think of.
Okay. Well, keep doing the good work, keeping us all safe while you're out there visiting, Hobbs End. I had no idea that you were keeping us safe. I even have a greater appreciation for you now after this conversation.
Well, I appreciate that you recognize how serious this is, and I appreciate that you are wishing me luck out there because it's a tough time out there.
I do. I'm definitely a believer that there's much greater forces out there.
Oh, and I will say this. I will say that there is a movie that was created by John Carpenter called In the Mouth of Madness. And it involves Hobbs End. It is his Hollywoodized version of Hobbs End. So if you wanna see what Hobbs End's all about, it's a lot worse than that, but that's a good little start. So that's anyone who wants to look into my backstory. John Carpenter made a movie in the early '90s about it, and yeah, it's again, it's over Hollywoodized and everything like that, but it's still a great horror movie, and it gives you an idea of what kind of a screwy, like psychologically horrifying place that is. So
Oh, fantastic. Well, Spectre, this conversation has been educational and fun for me. I hope it has been
yeah.
for you as well.
Well, yeah, I mean, I love talking violence, and it sounds like you love it as well.
I do. I do have appreciation for a guy that loves to throw thumbtacks and be creative with his weapons as well. And you definitely bring that.
Appreciate that.
Spectre, where can people follow you at if you want them to follow you at all?
My main source is Instagram. It's spine underscore shatter underscore spec. That's where I post most of my awesome videos, the stuff that I put together. I'm not much of a Twitter guy, but I think it's called X now.
Yeah, I think it changed like last night.
But if you do want to follow me on that, you can follow me at Hobbs and Spec. And then on Facebook, I'm Spine Shattering Spectre. So those are the three main things you can follow. And then I highly suggest everyone follow the WWA 4 because there's so many stars coming out of here. And every Thursday night at 8 p.m., we have a free show that is live on YouTube. So anyone who's interested in watching some indie wrestling, some fun wrestling, tune in on there. And if you can't make it to the live session, they post up the very next day and you can just watch the show the following day.
Perfect. And the t-shirts, where can people get the t-shirts?
Oh, I do have a website. There's a link on my Instagram that does have these. If you do see me in person, I do have some as well. This one created actually by my aunt, Spectre, with it's actually an homage to the movie Creep Show. And then I have my spine shattering logo on the back. So it's the most popular one. But yeah, so on my Instagram, my link tree on my Instagram has the link to my own store with there's a couple shirts. You can get a hat, stickers. There's a lot of stuff you can get on that website. It's the Hobbs End Black Market.
Perfect. Wow, it wouldn't be anything else than the black market, of course.
Yes. Yeah, because
Well,
we have to sneak the merchandise out of Hobbs End. Then we have to purge it of the evil. Then we can send it to you. So that's why it's better if we sell it ourselves.
it really is a process. It really is.
Yes.
Well, Spectre, thank you so much for taking a little bit of time out of your day for joining me here on the channel. It was definitely a pleasure
Right,
speaking with you. Yes. So guys,
it's been a pleasure for sure. And definitely make sure you keep it violent. You definitely make sure you don't ever visit Hobbs End either.
it's not on my bucket list anymore.
Good. Or else you'll kick the bucket.
Yes. We ain't got time for that. We got more stuff to enjoy out there, more wrestling to watch. More
yeah,
fun
you
things
can watch me wrestle. That's good enough. You'll get the idea of what Hobbs End is like.
Exactly. Well, if it's like that, then yes, we should not go let you handle the business out there.
Sounds good.
All right, guys, if you like interviews like this with Spectre, make sure you hit that red subscribe button so you can stay tuned in here to Toned In Entertainment for future videos. Subscribe to the channel. Do it. Go now. Do it now.